That was a banger song. I don't remember that song. Let's listen to this. That's the thing with me. I'll feel like I don't let albums like grow on me. Like I'll listen to them once, and I'm like pretty good, and then I'll just forget it exists. Rather than like try again, like just play, play. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Mayhem was a song. Was an album I felt that way about, and then I go back to Perfect Celebrity, and I'm like, hold on, I'm starting to get it. Anyway, that was a banger. I'm back to my shit. I'm back to my shit. It's midnight. It's midnight, and like I got home like 8:30. So that means I've spent 3.5 hours just kind of perusing YouTube. And like what? It's okay. Here's the issue about it. Here's what really makes it. Cause like I remember watching X. Was it just called X? I think it was called Malcolm X. Watching Malcolm X. That movie is 3.5 hours, and it ever like I feel like I was watching forever. It took so long. I feel like it's a dangerous thing. I feel like it's not healthy that 3.5 hours can just fly by when you're on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like 3.5 hours doing anything should like not eventually feel boring. You know what I mean? Or feel like you know what I mean? Like I feel like I couldn't go on a 3.5 hour walk or paint for 3.5 hours. Or like I mean, obviously there are certain things I could do. Like I could probably play games with my family, but you know what I mean? Or actually I probably could go on like a 3.5 hour walk, but like I would at some point feel like switching it up or feel kind of like but like also specifically something that's stagnant, like something about literally just sitting and looking, like I couldn't paint for that long because like to just sit and you know what I mean. Is that true? I feel like I have painted for like 3 hours before. Like if I just have like two to three really good podcasts, I could probably go for that long. um, but I don't know, whatever. I bring it up because what I want this talk the topic of the video is like what will keep me engaged, right? Because my mind was like, okay, if I'm not doing this, then I should go back to unpacking my family drama or like maybe thinking about those kind of themes from my actual life that I could apply to writing people and environments. And I always like I'm thinking, I record these videos and I write down these notes, and I'm like, how can I spin these videos and these notes into like a film or like something interesting, a poem, whatever. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, if I'm not doing that, let me revisit the song that I've been like loving so much. So let me try to get some lyrics on there. Let me like get, you know what I mean? Let me get my medley back on and like produce the rest of it. You know what I mean? Really try and like actually get this to a a completed state that I would actually not mind like showing someone. You know what I mean? um, um, and it just gets me thinking like, would it be such a waste? Would be such a waste to switch to a word search. I'm sure I have one. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, would it be so unthinkable to switch to painting my nails? I don't know, or to switch to like yoga. You know what I mean? I just feel like I refuse to do anything that's not like super stimulating and you know what I mean? Like I don't know, I think because the thing is, it goes beyond. Oh, I'll get bored. I genuinely believe it is like this a huge waste of time. You know what I mean? Like I feel like at least if I'm like spending 3.5 hours on YouTube, I'm getting all the good stuff. You know, I'm going through all the good stuff. I'm making sure that I'm watching all the good video. Yeah, I really did watch this great video essay. It was really good, and like I watched this like compilation of Ilya. He's the funniest character ever, and I love him so much. And I watched like this little theory of why Byler might still be a thing, which is like crazy that he thinks that's still gonna happen. But I don't know. The theory wasn't like horrible. I guess there is like some chance in hell that it could, but it's like literally 0.01, and that's generous, you know. Like there's like a 1% chance it could happen, and that is generous, you know. Um, mm. Like I guess it all okay. Not me getting into it also still kind of depends on Mike. Like you know what I mean. Like if you know what I mean. Because I mean the fact that like Will's feelings are like out is big. Is like oh it's big Byler or not. You know what I mean? It's like wow that's like such, and that would absolutely you know what I mean like their relationship has been fundamentally affected. Will's relationship with all of his friends, I feel like, has been fundamentally affected. But obviously, like his no other relationship is affected more by his coming out than his relationship with Mike, Byler or not. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, but like, regard. So, um, obviously, it will play out somehow. Like somehow, like Byler will resolve. Like we will see. I think. Um, you know what I mean. The is fallout the right word? Like the um, I can't remember the word, but like you know, sure the fallout of that in the finale. Like you know, I think the painting is still gonna come up. All that. Um, it's just like it's really likely that's gonna be something more like I love you, bro, basically, like, bro. But it's also something I cannot deny is that, like, Will and Eleven have not kissed, not once. You know what I mean? I haven't even heard, like, an I love you, I don't think. You know what I mean? Maybe I did. I think maybe I heard, like, an I love you so much from Elle. Maybe, like, when they reunited in Volume 2. Um, although I can't really remember that. And I do just feel like that is a little you know what I mean? I feel like I'm not trying to call them queer bears or anything like that, but like I don't get why they wouldn't be kind of making Will and Elle more attracted to each other, I guess I'll say. Not just in the that sense, but like literally just like more like magnetic like whatever between them. This is like their last scene and they're the central couple of their last season and they're the central couple of the show. You know what I mean? Like I almost feel like Nancy, I mean, of course, I guess they're spending more time together too, but like Nancy and Jonathan, who are literally broken up now, I feel like they even had more. Is chemistry the right word? Like, more. Oh, yeah, I'll go with chemistry. You know what I mean? Then you know what I mean? So I'm just like, why is that? Like, why no affection or like really kind of, I guess, explicit? Not explicit as in graphic, but explicit just as in explicit kind of displays and shows of their, you know what I mean? Like, and of course, Will and Elle are like an independent thing. Wow, or an independent like thing. Then um, that's a different relationship, right? Than Mike and Will. But I just feel like I just feel like Mike and Elle's relationship does not feel resolved to me. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't feel like there's a period on it. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like even though you know what I mean. I feel like even though there's supposed to be like end game and this like Mac, but honestly, it could also just be the writing of Stranger Things because I wouldn't say like Mac and Lucas are insanely kind of giving off like anyway, but like you feel it more. You're like, this is the love of his life, and she, you know what I mean, and she like needed him to get back to reality. Like they are one and done, and you see that kind of like, but I guess you see it there too with my like, you know what I mean. Like I feel like adoration and affection in Stranger Things is really kind of weird. Like you see it too with like Hopper and Joyce. Like it's just kind of this like that is being in love in Stranger Things, low key. So also Max and Lucas haven't kissed since so but like I don't know because Robin and Vicky to me I don't know maybe it's just the chemistry of the actresses as well, but like to me that's giving like romance. You know what I mean? To me that's giving like you know what I mean? Like I love them. You know what I mean? Like they're literally like I think they're my favorite couple. You know, which is crazy. But yeah, yeah. Every other couple just didn't. I feel like my favorite couple before would have been Nancy and John. They broke up. Like what? Crazy. Yeah, I do like Lumax. I just feel like we haven't actually seen them together. Like I liked them in season 4. Like I liked the little movie note and their little like and how like it's really clear they care about each other a lot and like I think it is so sweet. But I also just don't feel like I've seen them be that romantic. You know what I mean? Besides that little note scene and I guess like dancing at the end of season 2. So I just feel like there's not much to like exactly. Whereas Robin and Vicky, there's lots there. You know what I mean? There's lots to like there. You know, so um um wow, this is not okay. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. My overall point is, um, Mike and 11 to me kind of feel similar to Mac and Lucas in terms of like they don't have that many romantic scenes as well. And like if like Will's feelings wasn't a thing, I would kind of chop it off to the same thing as like they're cute, they care for each other clearly. They're not like my favorite couple necessarily, or I don't like, you know what I mean? I'm not as like stimulated by them as a couple than per se Vicky and Robin. I would just kind of chop it up to that if Will's feeling wasn't such a factor. But Will's feelings, I feel like, have been such a big plot. And, the climax of like volume 2, aside from the finale, was Will kind of coming out. And like the relationship that complicates the most is his one with Mike. So I do. So all of that to say is, I do still think it's like very likely that the oh my god, what is the word? What is the freaking word? It's not fallout. It's like fallout is where that works, but like the repercussion, maybe repercussions, um, that the repercussions and fallout are more negative than the word that the resulting circumstances. You know what I mean? The whatever. But that the fallout of that will likely be like, yeah, bro. I love you, but not like that. Like, the way Elton it played out in Elton John, Rocket Man. But at the same time, that does feel predictable, you know? So, I mean, and like just because Will says he's just my Tammy doesn't mean like he's right. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I feel like everything I heard in support of Greta Byler isn't necessarily like um negated by season 2. The main thing is just that like now there's like no time really to develop it as like a, you know what I mean? And like like I find it hard to see how Byler could be endgame with a satisfying ending within 2 hours of TV with all the other kind of relationships and characters and plot lines to wrap up at the same time. That's like pretty unlikely. But to me, that's the main thing that makes it unlikely, not necessarily like anything that happened in the plot. Because, and to come back to my original thing, because the main kind of plot things that happen that would negate kind of Byler, I would say, is the mention of Tammy, which I just stated that like yeah, just because he thinks that he could be misinterpreting. You know what I mean? It doesn't. He's not necessarily saying what the show is saying. You know what I mean? He's one character looking at it from one perspective. You know what I mean? And like, you know what I mean? And like, of course, it is about him. Like, I'm not negating the point of the speech at all. Like, yeah, it's not about Mike or the Tammy at the end of the day. It is about him, and he just have to come into that. And he just is being honest. Like, all of that is still what it is, and it's great. But in terms of like their relationship and how him being gay affects it, like the idea that like okay, that is the dynamic isn't necessarily true just because he says so or just because that's what he thinks, you know what I mean? So just clarifying that. And then the second thing is like how Mike reacted to hearing like I had a crush and I know he's not like that. Once again, in terms of I know he is not like that, it's the same kind of thing with Tammy. It's like, so you think, you know what I mean? Like, which, you know what I mean? But the main thing I think of all of those evidences is the reaction. His kind of he looked uncomfortable. Like he looked uncomfortable. He was like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like if everything everyone else has been saying about Byler, like this idea of like internalized homophobia is the reality, that would also make sense as a reaction. You know what I mean? Like to be, you know what I mean? I feel like if someone was like doing that in front of like I would get and I was gay, I'd get uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So, and it's also just like he's uncomfortable. Like I feel like if I were straight and I was hearing my best friend has this huge crush on me, I feel like I would react with more like pity. Or not even pity, but like yeah, pity basically. I'd be like, that would be my reaction, but like feels more defensive. No, I'm just um you know what I mean? It feels more like he seems like a little, I guess, too, I don't say hostile, but that reaction did feel a little bit too hostile for the type of friend that, like, we've been painting Mike out to be. You know what I mean? Like, and so it all depends on, like, what happens next. It's like, once again, it could be like, love you, bro. But then I feel like that reaction would really make sense for that kind of, like, love you, bro, but not like that kind of ending. Like, maybe it gets there after, like, a conversation or whatever. But once again, pity would be the right reaction to have to hearing that if it's going to end with "I love you, bro," but not like that. You know what I mean? That I feel like if he's straight and that was his reaction, what would make more sense to follow is more like I don't want to be friends with you anymore kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that's how he reacted. He reacted like, "Oh, this makes me uncomfortable." You know what I mean? Like, okay, maybe I don't want to be friends with you. Maybe that's a little bit crazy, but you know what I mean? Like this kind of like, dude, if I'm to be so honest, like maybe you know what? Maybe they're gonna take it in one of those like you could have told me kind of routes. You know, you could have told me I'm your best friend. Like why? You know, maybe he's like more mad that like he's telling everyone instead of like just him. You know what I mean? And then he's gonna be like, "Of course I love you, not like that, but like I love you and you could have told me." You know what I mean? Maybe that's the way that they're gonna take it. That I guess would make more sense for that reaction. It really does not seem likely that like he reciprocates, but not impossible. Like honestly, I'm gonna take it up to a solid 2% chance. Actually, it's a solid 2% chance it could happen. Cause like it really, yeah, it's really mainly just like the time left to kind of pull it off. Seems like okay, pretty unlikely. Not so much the plot itself. I feel like the plot still leaves room for it to be like kind of possible. You know what I mean? Anyway. Anyway, that's it for the book. Literally took like 15 minutes. I was saying though before that, yeah, I was watching Byler edits and all of that, and yeah. What could be stimulating? It's actually interesting that I even get into all of that Byler shit, and I literally talked about it until its natural conclusion because I remember on my trip, talking about this like two channels kind of thing, this kind of two aspects of who I am, I think, or channels that I feel like my brain taps into, and one is like this tendency to just do things to their natural conclusion. And then a lot of the time that is YouTube. Like I feel like I watched an edit of Joe's song and I'm like, well, let me you know what I mean? It felt like I, I never actually felt like I could just click off YouTube. I felt like when that edit came on, I decided, oh, I'd actually really love to listen to that song. That felt like YouTube was giving me an out. You know what I mean? Rather than like I can just make one, I can just stop. Like no, cannot disrupt the order of things. I'm watching YouTube. We must come to a natural conclusion. You know what I mean? So sometimes, even though I kind of see that aspect of myself as a lot more free willing or whatever, um, I can be very anal and strict about it. Like this is how it has to go. You know. So that's interesting. Um, that's the kind of thing though that I'm like, okay, if I'm not gonna be watching YouTube anymore, let me look more into that. Let me record right now and just go over all this shit. And I feel like this weekend in general, I was just called to be very observant about everything that was going on. And I think a lot of it was because like I wasn't watching YouTube or I wasn't not even necessarily as a like, okay, instead of making art and watching YouTube, I'm gonna be super observant. It's just I feel like one aspect of my brain always does have to be working in that way. It feels, you know what I mean? Like I was working on my screenplay, but then like people want to play games and shit, so I'm like, okay, let me switch gears. And yeah, obviously I'm not watching YouTube. I'm with my family. So it's like, okay, part of me can't be like consuming creative content and being like artistically stimulated or inspired by the things I enjoy. I can't that's off limits. Okay, me creating things that I've been inspired to create and things that I think are enjoyable. That's off limits. I feel like I the only thing left for me is to like I guess almost take inspiration from my life and to like keep tabs of things that I think are important or meaningful or whatever, and try to make sense of them later or here or in my notes. I feel like that's what I was doing a lot this weekend, specifically with like my family dynamics and that kind of mental dynamic that I have. Even oh my god, I remember we were getting into like race relations, and I was drilling it to my cousin Flav. That was like a whole thing. Um, but yeah, even that, I feel like I was so stimulated in that conversation, even though like he's stubborn and didn't get it. But I felt like, you know what I mean? I felt like I could do it. No, I can convince him. I can persuade him. And I didn't, but I don't know. I feel like even just trying to was kind of thrilling. And I feel like I don't know how to live without that thrill. You know what I mean? I feel like I can't just do yoga. I can't just do a rigid. Like I can. I did. Like there, I did. But I felt like I don't even know. I'm like, okay, I'm surrounded by my family though. We're all just kind of like doing things, and I'm like, okay, let me do. It felt like a good opportunity to do something slow and calm, like a word search. You know what I mean? I felt like, whereas here, alone in my house, doesn't feel that way because I'm like, okay, I don't even want to say I'm being hindered by my family or something like that. I'm just saying that there's no expectation, I guess, to do anything normal, quote unquote. So it's like I have all of this free space and time and will. That free time and space and will almost feels like a pressure to like do something thrilling, do something, you know what I mean? Do something that's like wow, really stimulating, like wow. Because then it's like, you know what I mean? Then it's like I feel like I'm not making the most of my time on precious earth, you know? And like I don't know, I guess like words doing a calm word search surrounded by my family feels right. But like doing a word search surrounded by no one feels random, you know? um yeah, to do kind of those calm, quiet, slow things without a community around you doesn't hit the same in the contexts that I usually find myself in. I don't know. I think maybe like if I've cleaned all day, then I've just generally decided to take a slow day and like actually somehow manage to get my brain in agreement with that, then it would feel right. But usually it's not. You know what I mean? And I feel like I can step into that kind of slowness a lot easier when I'm around my family. You know what I mean? Because then it just feels like really what I'm doing is spending time around my family, and I'm just doing a word search to have something to do, really, to like engage my brain in some way. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like when I'm around my family, like that's what I feel like I'm doing. I feel like that is something a little bit unique about me. I don't know. I just know Ariana doesn't. I remember bringing it up to her about like when I'm around you, when I'm with you, to me that is what I'm doing. I am being with you. That is the task at hand, you know? And she didn't really. She's like, you know what I mean? Like she didn't like almost as if there's no difference if I'm there or not in terms of like what she's doing, you know what I mean? I'm like I don't get that. I feel like a lot. I don't. From what I perceive too, from like my family and MJ and other people, they feel similarly. I feel like I'm kind of unique for seeing, you know, it that way. Like be the act of being with someone that way. So there you have it. You know what I mean? So then it's like if I'm alone, it's okay. I'm not being with anyone but myself, I guess. And that means I should fill my space and time with something not bigger than a person, but like deep enough. You know what I mean? Like big enough to make me feel as like I don't say whole, but like as much as I would with another being. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, because I feel like with another person, it's another brain, mind, body, personality, all of that. They're and they have this whole inner world, and they have all these thoughts, and they have all these feelings, and they have all these complexities, just like me. And to me, even just and like to me, even just being next to that person fills me with oxytocin and all these like. And so I'd like to think that like me being next to them is kind of doing the same. And to like be engaged in that, so I kind of look really want to get a cat or like an animal. I feel like I really need that. To be engaged with that, I literally feel that way with Lua. Like when Lua's like on my lap, I'm like, okay, I'm being with Lua. You know what I mean? I'm being with Lua right now. You know what I mean? That is what I'm doing. Um, um, but yeah. Anyway, to be engaged like that, to me, it's like a lot is being stimulated there. Like a lot, like that is a very engaged thing. So to be alone, I feel like there's a lot to make up for. You know what I mean? In terms of like whatever it is I decide to do, or whatever way I decide to spend my time and space and energy, you know? So yeah, I'm like, okay, something like this. Honestly, it's not weird. I keep calling it weird, but whatever. Something like this kind of feels like spending time with myself, which feels a little bit weird to say, like actually a little bit wooey to say, just because I'm like, that is not like the camera is not me. Even the thoughts are not me. I'm me. It's not, you know? But anyway, yeah, I get so like weird about like who am I? Where's is identity, you know? But yeah, that is what this kind of feels like. I feel like movies is what it kind of feels like. Making art is kind of like feel is kind of like what it feels like. It's like I really don't like feeling disconnected from humanity at all. You know what I mean? Like there's personalities on YouTube, there's thoughts on YouTube, perspective on YouTube. There's perspective here. There's my own perspective. When I make art, there's my own perspective. There's others people's perspectives that I'm expressing through my own art when I make it. You know what I mean? There's other people things I've learned from other people that I'm bringing to the table. There's all the things that I've observed from life from others that I'm bringing to the table right now when I make art, when I speak. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like I always just like to be, and then if I'm not doing any of that, then I can do something meaningless like a word search. If there's people around me, because being in their presence to me feels like the point of living. You know what I mean? It's just people and being connected to humanity and being like in touch with humanity and other humans or you know or aspects of myself that has been impacted by other humans or you know what I mean? Um, which is interesting. It does beg the question though, like, okay, what is it though for me to like actually just be alone with myself? Like what is it about that feels so discomforting or like am I ever really by myself if I'm constantly you know trying to you know what I mean? Even like when I do these I notice how much of like what I'm like is from other people and how much of what I say is shit that I've and a lot of what I say is just me like making sense of things like you know just processing things but you know what I mean a lot is like things that I've heard and it's just like I wonder what it would actually be like to just kind of be purely in my own energy, quietly still aloof. You know what I mean? I feel like I wouldn't like it. I feel like I'd feel restless and uncomfortable. But I also don't actually feel like I fully am familiar with it, which is crazy given how much A, I've lived alone for a year. B, I feel like I'm such a solitude person. I don't know. Like I feel like I've been so introverted the last couple years. And B, yeah, I feel like I am just very one for individualness and isolation and like you know what I mean and for that. So I'm like it's very interesting that I don't feel like I understand that very well. and I think it did me good to try. Um, and so that's what I mean by like I should paint my nails and I should try doing these things that are kind of just like quiet me time that's not about my personality or others' personalities or about humanity or about other humans or about the social, you know what I mean? I feel like need to really understand what life can be like, just disconnected from any kind of social humanity kind of thing. You know what I mean? I feel like it feels so cold. I feel like all the warmth in the world for me comes from that. Comes from like living things. You know what I mean? Is that true? I don't know. I think clouds are soft. I think I love water in general. I think water is like a magical thing, honestly. Um yeah, I don't know, maybe like my appreciation for things like that could grow if I did. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know. Um but yeah, I'm very like sucked into language and art and music and psychology and philosophy and all these things are just like girl. So it's like to do things with my time that are less really to strengthen that muscle of like, okay, no stimulating creation, no stimulating consumption, no stimulating observation. Let me even say no creation, no consumption, no observation. To not, is that even possible? To just not observe anything? Like, that's no. Like, you, what? That is literally what I feel like being alive, what experiencing is observing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I guess maybe I mean, like, not to draw conclusions about what I observe, you know? I don't feel like I can help that though. That's not, you know what I mean? To like when I make a connection or when I make then something else kind of, you know what I mean? It's like that just happens, you know what I mean? And then when it happens, I feel like I have to keep, and I don't actually have to. That I can help a little bit more than I do, but if the feel is certain, I definitely feel like it's very compelled to like see an observation through to its natural conclusion. Yeah, for sure. And it's also just like no, okay, like no creation, no consumption. That's one thing. Because at the end of the day, that's an activity I can stop. But like observation, like no observation. I don't feel like maybe I like put a lot of my worth or something into like my observations and like the things I notice or something because I don't even know what else, there is to like do with like my you know what I mean, with my mind, with my being, with my like with my next sentence. What am I supposed to do? Just exist? Like that's crazy. Yeah. Fuck, I'm feeling kind of existential, as I do, as per usual. But yeah, I could practice that though a little bit more, just kind of like, because this is what meditation is, isn't it? It's like observing, but like not holding on to anything. That is something I think I do. It's like observe something and I hold on to it. And I don't think I'm holding on to it because I'm kind of disconnecting from it in the sense that I look at it from like an objective perspective, but I am holding on to it. And I feel like I do go down that path because I'm emotionally invested in it and there is that energy there. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, what if I keep my energy? I let the thought go. You know what I mean? No matter how hard it is, no matter like how attached to it I feel, I take the energy out of it as much as I can. I keep it. I let the thought go. I let the The thing is, in my mind, I feel like I'm draining the thought. I'm draining the concept even. I'm like, okay, now that concept is empty and meaningless because I'm not giving it air, you know? And that almost doesn't feel fair to the concept. I'm like, what? What did the concept do? What did the concept do to deserve this? Just pop into my brain at the wrong time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, suddenly I'm a monk, therefore this brilliant idea doesn't get to like exist. That sucks. That sucks for the idea. Mhm. Mm. That is genuinely how I feel though. So that it literally does make it quite hard to let things go, ideas go. I'm back on my shit. This couldn't be more back on my shit. The only difference is I was talking about Byler this time instead of heated robbery, which is surprising. I thought I didn't care that much about Byler. Wrong. Wrong. Dead wrong. Like oh my god, the fucking weather. I should journal. I should journal for my weekend. The but the I can't believe I haven't mentioned the weather at all. I've been pushing cars all goddamn weekend, pushing cars, getting them out of snow, fucking walking around in freezing rain, like 80 kilometers of snow. Like literally, the weather is crazy. The weather's so crazy. Slipping and sliding in cars on the highway. This is going okay. Yeah, the weather's wild. And then I'm just like, and we going out and we rage anyway. What? What? No, and I was fucking considering it crazy. Crazy. Oh my god. Okay. So I would like to stop this though because this is it's not observing, but it is creating. I think it's making dialogue like a conversation with that. I would consider that creating, persuading, like I heard from Guitar Guy that like conversations are their own form of art, and I agree. I see that. I think a book isn't much different than a conversation. This isn't much different than a movie. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you can absolutely take everything I've said thus far, rearrange it, attribute it to some characters, add a little setting, you know, and it's a giving movie. You know what I mean? Like I think of I don't know that many movies are like Before Sunrise, of course, is a good movie that's just conversation. I think specifically of like the Euphoria episode of like them just sitting in the diner talking, like you know what I mean? It's like people do it. Like there are movies that are literally just conversations, you know. Mm, mm. So yeah, I would like to stop this so I can like try and pay attention to that other thing. But like I think what I'm expressing though is that I don't actually think I want to, even though I think it might be good for me, you know? Like I don't do I know it'll be good? I know my brain would probably stop hurting. Like my brain is starting to hurt and like I keep getting these waves of existential stress because I'm talking so deeply about this thing for like, you know, and I'm spending so much time on it as if I don't spend so much time on it already, you know what I mean? So it's like, but the thing is, like, the alternative is more YouTube or like something boring. Or I should create. I should spend more time creating, but I feel like creating out of this kind of mindset and like space and in this context, I should say, when it's like almost 1 a.m. and I've just been watching a lot of TV and my head hurts because I've been talking so much and you know like I'm kind of tired because this day's been so long and the main reason that I'm kind of deciding to create right now is because I feel like there's nothing else I would that would feel like a satisfying use of my time or there's nothing else that would make me feel like I'm using my precious time on earth well. It puts so much pressure on the creating. Like creating's supposed to be playful, you know, it's supposed to be playful and you know, playful is something that happens after lunch. You know, you know, playful is something that happens, you know, when you're feeling down. You know what I mean? Also, I need to take my vitamins. I didn't do that today. I feel like it literally affected my mood. You know what I mean, though? You feel me? You feel me? Kind of wish I got Popeyes. Their chicken looked so good and juicy. Like it looked so good. My burger was kind of dry, but anyway. um, um, what was I saying? What was I saying? I have no before Popeyes. Like I can't remember. Creating like yeah, making art. You want to do it like what playful time happens in a different kind of setting. Um, then like so it's like okay, the only thing I would want to do is like practice piano or work on my song or work on my screenplay or find something else kind of fun and pointless to do. Although I wouldn't want to do that because I'd want to actually take a step towards something I've already started so I can actually build something a bit bigger and lasting because I don't really like doing a little doodle in my sketchbook and forgetting about it, you know? So it's the only thing. Or maybe I can just like listen to music and sit. I think I'd honestly pretty much enjoy that too. I feel like I don't do it myself. Like I feel like the only time I do that's when I'm driving. Like when I'm in the car, so the whole time, most of the time, just listening to music or podcast. That works, you know. Um, because I feel like my brain, like the being in a moving car, feels engaging. It feels like I'm doing something. It's also like people around me, someone else is driving. Like being in that environment feels like doing something. You know what I mean? It's hard to, yeah, anyway. But being in this environment for some reason doesn't feel like doing anything. Maybe it's because this is home or something. I don't know. Like, of course it's because it's home, but I don't understand what really makes home different than the library, different than, you know what I mean? Than, like, you know what I mean? Like any other room feels more special than my home. You know what I mean? Feels more like, okay, I'm doing something. Whereas here, I feel like I'm sitting in a room, you know? That's like, why? Like, my home is I don't even know. I feel it less when I'm in my other home, you know? Even before I moved out, like, I think I felt it less because I was at least around, like, when I went to the living room, at least. Even in my old bedroom, it's like, at least I look over and I see my mom's stuff, and I'm like, feel like I'm surrounded by her energy. You know what I mean? But here, it's just a completely undisturbed baseline, you know? And like everything I choose is like completely, you know what I mean, is completely my own kind of creation and volition. And that almost makes it all less like I don't want to say impactful, but that's kind of what I mean. Like there's a word that it makes it less like lasting, less like, you know, um tentative, not tentative, tangible, like you know what I mean? But it's all like ephemeral, I guess. Which is again existential scary, but I don't know. I guess when I'm here, I feel like I should watch that future synthesis video. But when I'm here and I do nothing, I see this future of me doing nothing in this room. I feel like, okay, this moment where I'm doing the same thing I've always done, or I'm not doing anything at all that I've always done in this room that I live in, that I spend all of my time in, all of my days in, for however many years for the foreseeable future, you know? This is it. This is, you know? Whereas if I'm in the car, I feel like I'm doing something new. Or in my friend's house, I feel like I've gone, you know what I mean? It's almost like you want every like day and hour of your life to be this new thing, like a new chapter, a new kind of development, because you want your life to be like this big, interesting book, you know what I mean? But when you spend so much of your time just in the same room doing the same thing you usually do, with no other kind of right, because when it's half my mom's room, I feel like I'm surrounded by her presence. It's a little bit more, you know, like someone else's energy is less predictable than my own, I guess. You know, so I'm just like, oh, I wonder what happened there. Why did she get these? Like, oh, that's new. Where did it come from? You know what I mean? Whereas I can't do that to myself because I make all of my own decisions and like you know what I mean? There's nothing unpre like obviously there are like everyone people surprise themselves. It happens, but like it's way less of you know what I mean? So I'm trying to like wrap this up, but I feel like I get more complicated. Um, um, but yeah, like I just feel like I guess there's a lot to compensate for, a lot to make my life feel interesting when I'm here in my house alone. You know what I mean? It's like I really okay, I really gotta fill these chapters up. I really gotta make these chapter. I gotta author myself and my life and like so it's like and I want that, and then oh, 1 a.m. comes around and it's another day that looks the exact same as like and it's 1 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I need to make something completely new. That's the only way I can make the next chapter of my life something I'm like excited to look back on or something, you know what I mean? It's the only way I can make it something that I might not forget or something. And that's not, I don't think that's a good place to make art out of. You know what I mean? Like, making art shouldn't be about making your life interesting. It should be about the art, I think. You know what I mean? It should be about the activity itself. You know what I mean? Like, I feel called to sing. I feel called to paint. I feel called to write. I feel called, you know what I mean? And not even like I feel called, but like it should be like, I'm just choosing to do this for the sake of it, rather than for the sake of, I needed to mean something about me. I needed to define my life in some way right now. You understand what I'm saying? Do you do it for the sake of doing it, for the sake of doing the thing, not for the sake of just building up this like. It is hard. It's hard to be intentional about your life without being over focused on that authorship of your life. Um, I find I really struggle with that. I think I'm always considering the authorship of my own life. Um, and it's hard to step back from that, and that is, I think, the main way most artists are disconnected from their life. And um, the other way is obviously like escapism, watching a lot of media, or thinking about fantasy land, or like the beautiful, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the point though in doing yoga and doing the word search and doing the things that are disconnected from the social and kind of creative and and observable thing of all of that. It allows you to reconnect, and it doesn't serve anything outside of that moment, really, outside of the now. You're grounding now. It doesn't really mean that you're gonna ground in the future or that like you're gonna change into anything. It doesn't say anything about you. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's hard to do something for the moment and not for the book. For the page, for the sentence, and not for the whole book. You know what I mean? Even if, because that's the thing. Like, life is not a narrative. It kind of is, but it's not. Like, you know what I mean? Every single page, if you consider like every page like an hour or a moment in your life, they're all gonna look so completely different, and like they're not gonna have like this through line. You know what I mean? It's not going to be this like hill like arc. You know what I mean? And you're not gonna like look back on the whole thing and feel like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, no, your every life is nonsense. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's boring a lot, and then it's tragic, and then it's happy, and then it's, you know what I mean? There's all these things, and none of them make sense, and like, you know, you are the through line. You are the through. There is no more through line needed. And I think maybe it's like, you think that you have to define who you are, but you don't. Like, you are you, and you're the through line. You don't need to add anything more. You know what I mean? There's nothing more, you know? Everything else in terms of like define is stuff that has been like you have been told that you need to define yourself, that you need to announce yourself, that you need to, you know what I mean? And all you have to do is exist straight up. Straight up. And then you get to do all the other more things that life has to offer. You know what I mean? You get to hang out with your family. You get to watch cool movies. You get to listen to good music. It's not, you should do these things because they say this about you, and then they make that kind of through line of who you are in your life more. Like, no, it's done. It's done. All the chapters, all the pages of your life are going to be connected through you, and you are everything. You're whole. You're whole. You're everything you need to be already. You know what I mean? So it's like filling up these chapters. It's just kind of like this thing of like you get to do whatever you like. Go off. You get to do what you need as well. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you should do what you need. It's just like you know what I mean? In terms of like me trying to stop this video right now and have some quiet time. That's not really like super fun per se, or like, ooh, I'm gonna get to do this, which is what I feel like I try to fill my time with a lot of like, oh, let me watch movies, let me paint, let me like do this. I neglect like the things that I need. I'm like, sometimes, like a lot of the pages of your book is sleeping. A lot of the pages of your book is sleeping. You have to sleep. Your body needs sleep. But hey, a lot of those pages are full of dreaming, and sleep is so good. Yeah, maybe it's boring, maybe it's not interesting, but it, it is pretty interesting if you think of like the technicalities of sleep, and also like sleep is feels good and it's natural, and I don't know, it's like I don't know, like I want to say like most of your life is not going to be super agent or thrilling, and that is okay because it doesn't make it not fulfilling and meaningful and good and right, and you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But it's not easy. It's not. I definitely feel like it's tricky to kind of go through your life and arrive at the end of it, maybe, or you know what I mean? Knowing how much of it you maybe didn't control and how much of it you didn't. I don't want to say didn't enjoy, but like yeah, maybe you didn't actively enjoy. You weren't actively enthused by. You know, I like that. I feel like that's a feeling I really try to avoid and struggle to accept. But I think it's important that you confront and accept it because that is what a lot of life is. And that doesn't like cancel out fulfillment and meaning and value. You know, things can be out of your control and kind of boring, I guess, and still be meaningful and fulfilling and right, Sleep is the perfect example, you know? You know? um, yeah, so I think that's a good end. I just wanted to say that in terms of like feeling better about spending some time doing something quiet and boring because I'm tired and my body kind of needs it, and that's kind of out of my control. But like I don't really want to. That's the thing. I don't really want to. But I think it's in theory I can choose not to. That's not what my body needs. You know what I mean? And I want to listen to my body. I think it's very important that you listen to your body. And listening to your body means that you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of like time you could in theory be spending doing something more thrilling, but you're listening to your body, but you're taking care of your body. And so that it's purposeful and fulfilling and valuable. You know what I mean? And right. And I should never feel like I'm spending my time wrong or it's a waste of time by like listening to my body, even if yeah, I'm more bored if I'm less stimulated. You know? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. I think that is the end of the topic. That is the whole topic. As thoroughly discussed as I could.